Okay, here is part 2 of the introduction, part A, rather, PowerPoint lecture for Introduction to Sociology, Scott High School. Now, the last slide you saw was the sacred and the profane. We were talking about Peter Berger's idea that sociology covers it all, from the best to the worst and everywhere in between, which makes for an interesting course. Now, American sociologist C. Wright Mills talks about the sociological imagination. This is probably the most important tool that you'll use in this course. If I don't get to teach you anything else in this course, hopefully you'll be able to understand, develop, and use the sociological imagination. I'm going to give you a technical definition, then we'll talk about it, and I'll give you some examples. Your book talks about this as well. I'm going to go a little more in depth with it. The sociological imagination is the ability to see how historical circumstances of a particular society affect the individual, and at the same time how individual people impact history. So I like to say we don't exist in a vacuum as individuals. In other words, we don't just go about our business as individual people without being influenced by society. I mean, the time that we're born into has a lot to do with what our interests are, what we do, the sports that we play, the clothes that we wear, etc., etc. Some of the greatest inventors of our time, Benjamin Franklin, for example, invented a lot of things. Eyeglasses, for example. Had he not been born during his time, would he have ever invented? If he had been born, let's say, in 1950, would he have invented eyeglasses? Probably not, because they've been around for a while. However, maybe he was at the right place at the right time for that. We could even go back further, the idea of heliocentrism, in other words, the sun being at the center of the universe, versus geocentrism, the idea of the earth being at the center of the universe. For a long time, all of our scientific theories and hypotheses were based on the idea that the earth was at the center of the universe. Now we know that's not true. We know that it's the sun. But it took the right person at the right time, Isaac Newton, to come along and say definitively, hey, this is how it is. There were people before Newton who were saying that the sun was at the center, but no one took them seriously because they weren't in the right place at the right time. So history impacts you as a person. And great individuals also impact history. Great people make great contributions that change society. So think of the sociological imagination as kind of like an onion. I've worked in restaurants my whole life. I've been a server. I still do that at a place called Deals in Nitro. If you ever get up this way, come ask for me. But if you peel back an onion, every time you take back a layer, the onion looks a little bit different. It takes a different appearance. Same thing with society. As we start peeling back the layers of things that happen in society, we start to understand that things look a little different every time you take a layer away. And eventually you get to the core, you get to the idea of what values, attitudes, and beliefs people have that contribute to whatever it is that we're examining, whether it's a sporting event or a reality TV show or whatever. Mills also discussed the importance of placing single isolated events within the context of history. And we just kind of talked about that. Let me see if I can give you an example of that. Let me expound upon that. Example, it would be hazardous to predict the day of any one person's death. If I picked a random person in your county or in your high school, God forbid, okay, I could predict, well, this person's going to die when they are 65. I don't know. It's hard to do that. You don't know. I mean, some people die very young. Others may live to be 100. But what you can do, for any 1,000 men or any 1,000 young girls, for example, you can make much more confident predictions. So if I know that I'm living in a society, let's say like right now, life expectancy at the end of 2000 was 77 years of age in this country for men and women. I can predict reasonably that someone can live to be 77 years of age. That would be my prediction, because that's statistically what we know. Now, if you go back 100 years, life expectancy in 1901 was only 49 years of age. We've added almost 30 years of life expectancy in this country just in the last century. So if I were making a prediction in 1900, for example, I wouldn't predict 77 because life expectancy then was 49. I would predict something closer to 49. Okay, so what I have done is I'm understanding that there's a notable regularity, as you can see right there. There's a trend based on statistical data. And sociology helps us understand what these notable regularities are, and it enables us to make some pretty accurate predictions. So let's go back to the sociological imagination again. Reality TV is popular. You guys probably watch a host of reality TV shows. I know my daughter does. There's all kinds of stuff on social media, Vine, other things. And really, when you start peeling back the layers, I'm going to stick with reality TV, we start to understand what we really value in society. Television shows get ratings. If they get ratings, they stay on the air. We have to assume that if television programming or media programming is popular, then a lot of people are watching it. There's something there that's keeping our attention. So what is it about reality TV shows that keep our attention? Well, competition. We value competition within our society, do we not? It starts from an early age. You start competing for attention from your siblings, with your parents. When you get into school, you compete for grades, for boyfriends, for girlfriends. You play sports, you start competing on your sporting teams. Everything's competition. You compete for grades throughout high school and college, graduate school. When you get a job, you compete for that, just for your job. You compete for salaries. Everything's competition based and geared within our society. And reality TV show reflects that value. When you peel back the layers, we see that there's inherent competition. We love drama, don't we? Gosh, we love drama. And we love to see other people's dirty laundry. We love to see that. It makes us feel better about ourselves, perhaps. Sexual promiscuity. Any television show that has anything to do with sex sells, right? That's what I've been told. We like that as a society. It gets ratings. Glamour, fame, wealth, all of these values, these things that as a society we value, are reflected in reality TV. So we start to understand why that's so important. That's a really old picture of myself and my wife. Now, I'm a psychologist as well as a sociologist, and as well as being an instructor. And my wife is also a teacher. So I might be successful as a teacher in society today. However, if you transplant me back in time thousands of years and place me within a hunting and gathering society, where basically you have two jobs, hunting and gathering, and you might have like a religious priest or a shaman. Now I show up in this society, and there's only like 40 people in a society that's a hunting and gathering society, as opposed to millions like today within our modern society. And they're like, all right, Brandon, Dean, what can you do? Can you hunt like the rest of the men? And I say, well, no, but I can teach sociology. I'm not going to be very useful for that society, because there's not such a thing as sociology. There's not such a thing as school thousands of years ago. So I'm probably going to be eaten pretty soon. So where you're at in history has a lot to do with how your abilities or talents are fulfilled or not fulfilled. I'm old enough to remember I played baseball when I was in school. I'm a big sports fan myself, and I remember the big home run race. You guys may be a little too young for this, but maybe you've heard of Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds. They were chasing history in baseball, trying to break the home run record. It was a big to-do, and people absolutely were enthralled with this. When you peel back the layers of this, why were people so into this? Well, sports, competition, drama, all of those things. Also, again, being in the right place at the right time. Shaun White, who is an Olympic snowboarder, and Tony Hawk. I actually grew up. Tony Hawk's about my age. I'm almost 42. Had he been born 300 years ago, would he have been as popular and successful and just infinitely wealthy? Probably not, because skateboarding wasn't around 200-300 years ago. The time probably wouldn't have been right for that. But he was born into the right time to realize his skills. As was Shaun White. 40, 30, 20 years ago, Olympic snowboarding was not even an Olympic event. Ask your parents what television shows they liked when they were growing up. I was born in the 70s, so I remember shows like Three's Company, The Dukes of Hazzard, love Beavis and Butthead. I can do a great impersonation. I might do it someday for you. They're making a comeback. Saved by the Bell, shows that you may or may not have heard of, but these are shows I grew up with, and because of my age and where I was born in history, are shows that I relate to. Some reality TV shows that you've probably seen: Dancing with the Stars, Project Runway, Extreme Makeover. There are just tons and tons and tons of reality TV shows. The Biggest Loser, Survivor's been around for 18 seasons or something like that, I think. And obviously, Duck Dynasty, right? if you're from West Virginia, you've heard of this reality TV show. So these shows are immensely popular, and again, just reinforcing the fact that they reflect things that we value, things that we like. So, and we'll continue to kind of peel back the layers of this stuff. So that's the end of the second part of the introductory lecture. Thank you.